Hello, I'm Rebecca the Maths Lady. In this video, I'm going to explain how you can support your child as they develop flexible and creative mental strategies for multiplication. By the end of this video, you'll understand how you can use rectangles of squares, which we call arrays, to communicate with your child about your strategies and their strategies for mental multiplication. And I'll have explained some of the strategies that you're likely to come across. So if you don't need this video, here's a link to the next one, which is about the foundations of division. It's really helpful if you've watched the previous two videos before this one, which were about the foundations of multiplication and short multiplication. So here's a link to the first of those now, if you'd like to watch them. Okay, let's get going. Have a look at this multiplication, 19 times 4. Can you do it in your head? How did you do it? Well, it turns out there are lots of ways that people use. You may have done a column multiplication in your head. You may have started with the 9 and multiplied it by 4, which is 36. Then you may have thought, well, there's 6 in the ones, and then 4 times 1, add the 3. But you probably didn't do quite that. Even if you used basically that strategy, you probably did 10 times 4 and 9 times 4 and added them together, which is subtly different. But there are lots of other strategies too. Let's look at them with an array, which is a rectangle of squares, which is one of these. So the answer to this question is the total number of squares in this array, because it shows 4 rows of 19 squares. So if you did short multiplication or something like it, what you were doing was working this out in two parts. The 10 lots of 4 and the 9 lots of 4 and adding them together. But that's not always what people do. Some people double the 19 to get 38. 38 would be this. And then double the 38 to get 76. Now the numbers there are quite tricky, but they're more likely to use that strategy if it had been 21 times 4, because it's easy to double 21 to 42 and then double it again. But some people may have done 20 times 4, so they're imagining this as a larger rectangle with an extra column of 4 on the end. Well, 20 times 4 is easy. 4 20s are 80. And then subtract the 4 off and you still get the 76. And arrays, rectangles of squares, are incredibly powerful because they support thinking about short multiplication. That's always one of the strategies they show, but they also support all the other strategies. Now, as you get on to larger multiplications, it's not always practical to cut out a rectangle of squares or draw one. So you may like to draw a more generalised array that doesn't have all the squares on. That's always quick to do. You're just drawing a rectangle and adding your two numbers onto the sides. And then we can show the strategy that's basically short multiplication. We're splitting that into a 10 and a 9. And we're getting 40. And 4 times 9 is 36, and adding them together. But if someone chose to multiply by 4 by doubling, and doubling again, we're splitting it that way. For your first doubling, we get 2 lots of 19 are 38, and then we're doubling 38. 38 add 38 gives you your answer, which is 76 as well. And for the other strategy that I mentioned, what we're doing is expanding the rectangle, so it's 20 squares long, and we're calculating the number of squares in that rectangle, which is 80, and then subtracting off the 4, and that still gives us 76. 80 subtract 4 is 76. Here's another one. Can you do this in your head? 23 times 8. If you've managed it, how did you do it? Here it is as an array. If you did strict short multiplication, then you split it here into 20 times 8 and 3 times 8 and added those two parts together to get your answer. I find a lot of people actually like to do 10 times 8 twice and add that to 3 times 8. So they're doing it in 3 sections like this. 10 eighths are 80, another 10 eighths are 80, that's 160. 3 eighths are 24, add that on, it's 184. Some people like to double it and double it and double it again. So if you double 23, you're getting 2 rows. That much is 46. And then if you double that, you get half the answer. Well, double 46 is 92. And if you double your 92, you get the whole answer, which is 184. I've even seen some people think, well, it's a bit less than 25 times 8. And 25 times 8 I can do because I know 4 25s are 100. So 8 25s are 200. And then I've just got to knock 2 eighths off, and they're 16. 200 subtract 16 is 184. I am not expecting you or your child to come up with all these strategies. What I want to make you aware of is that short multiplication is a wonderful strategy because it always works. But it's really important that it doesn't suffocate mental strategies. Mental strategies need to be nurtured too. And if short multiplication is a bit of a holy grail for completing these calculations, array is an even deeper holy grail because it supports thinking about short multiplication, and it also supports thinking about every single mental strategy you can come up with. And you can actually cut out arrays of squares, or you can just draw rectangles and discuss your thinking and cut the rectangles up into the sections that you are choosing to work with, and draw dotted bits for extra extended rectangles if that's part of your strategy. It turns out that array is even more powerful than that. It supports thinking about all multiplication and division strategies right through primary school. So you're going to see lots more of it in these videos. At the end of this video, I'll put in a link to a Year 6 lesson that uses array, so you can get a feel for quite how valuable it is just for your interest. Now, if I say array underpins everything, there's one other strategy with it I should really show you. Have a think about this multiplication, 126 times 5. Most people are going to chop this into sections and do 100 times 5, maybe 10 times 5, another 10 times 5 and a 6 times 5 and put them together or something like that. But just occasionally somebody wants to say it's 630 because it's 63 times 10. And they're absolutely right. And it's a wonderful shortcut strategy for when you're multiplying 5 by an even number. 126 is 63 times 2 times 5. And 2 times 5 is 10. So therefore, that is 63 times 10. So you can do that with formal notation. But how do you do it with array? Well, if we consider an easier calculation, 24 times 5, what you need is scissors. Just going to fold it in half that way, cut it down the middle, and put it back together like that. 24 times 5 is 12 times 10. If we just cut it and put it back together. This strategy is based on the insight that there are 2 5s in 10, which you can just see. So if you've got an even number of 5s, you've got half that many 10s. Sometimes takes a little bit of thinking about, but it's something you may come across. I will create a worksheet of calculations for mental multiplication, which will be multiplications that are suitable for shortcut strategies for you to work on with your child. And they should be live within a couple of weeks of this video going live. They're available to free download from my Facebook group, which is Expert Primary Maths Teaching. If you go to that group and then click on the files on the left-hand side and scroll down, when you're looking for a worksheet, just look for the name of the video and the worksheet should be named something very similar. You can also find my worksheets for free download from some other sites which are mentioned in the description of my Rebecca the Maths Lady YouTube channel. So your takeaways from this video are that although short multiplication is a fantastic strategy because it always works, it's not always the best strategy, and at some stage in your work with your child you should slow down and take time to nurture their mental strategies. And a great way to do that is by drawing rectangles of squares and counting them. The strategies I've covered today include cutting the multiplication into parts of your choice and adding the parts back together, working out more than the multiplication and subtracting some off. For multiplying by 4, you can double and double again. For multiplying by 8, you can double and double and double again. And for multiplying 5 by an even number, you can half that even number and multiply by 10. There are more strategies. You don't need all of these, but it's really good to have come across them and to have spent some time focusing on mental multiplication. And it's important to have realised that short multiplication isn't always the best strategy. If you've any questions, please put them in the comments. I really, really value your feedback. Please tell me how it's going with your child. If you'd like to be able to find my videos again, please subscribe and click on the bell. If you like this video, please consider sharing it with friends, teaching assistants, teachers, anyone you think might enjoy watching them. I hope you'll join me for the next video, which is about the foundations of division and is probably the most important video in the series. Bye for now.